What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, and let's fucking go, because today we have an excellent episode. Deadpool and Wolverine are out. If you've been listening to our episodes over the month of July, you know that we did a lot leading into the Marvel long-awaited release of Deadpool and Wolverine. Lauren and I saw it together. However, this movie is too big just for the two of us. So we invited our dear friend, Richard Nebens, back to discuss this fantastic movie. And so you know it's going to be a good one today. Make sure you go to Hot Geek News, like, subscribe, share, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And that's how you can help the podcast grow. Follow us, please. Drop a review. Anything that you can do to help us, we sincerely appreciate it. And typically we do news, notes, what we're reading, what we're watching. However, none of that's going to be going down today, as we're going to dive right into the film. But one thing we do have is a beer of the week. And my beer of the week, in honor of Wolverine, he is a veteran, like Lauren has let us know. I'm drinking from Honor Brewing out of Chantilly, Virginia. It's called, it says Hazy Brew Great Beer. It's a 6.3% hazy IPA honoring Canadian heroes in this case. It says American, but we're honoring Canadian heroes today. And
Jesus,
we got Deadpool. He's here. Lauren, before we get to our guest, Deadpool,
Richard is dressed up.
Richard has come dressed as Deadpool, but I think he's
really
part of the Deadpool core.
Well, he really one-upped on my Simba outfit I had last time he was on.
He did.
But you are very much passed away.
Lauren, what are you drinking over there real quick before we get to our good pal over here?
So we actually got home from Europe last night, and then while we were gone, Tripping Animals released 2 beers, a Deadpool one and a Wolverine one. Josh found the Deadpool one. I was unable to find the Wolverine one, but I am drinking the Tripping Animals Deadpool beer. It is called Maximum Effort. However, for tonight, I put in minimum effort in preparing for this episode. All I have done is seen the movie, but of course, I have lots of opinions and notes. I've only seen it once. I'm going to see it again this weekend. But when I got home last night, I literally laid on the bed until I passed out. Oh, there's us. If you're watching on YouTube, there was us in the theater.
Yes.
And I just started watching reels, and all I was getting was Deadpool and Wolverine and Deadpool at Disneyland. And so I have watched so many clips of interviews with them and so many scenes, multiple. I've watched the beginning scene again. So I've seen a lot of it. So let me talk about this beer. Sorry, I'm already going off on tangents. I forgot how to podcast. It's been a while.
It's been 3 weeks.
It was a long 3 weeks.
It was.
It was a sour ale conditioned with black cherry. And look at some of this art if you're on. Obviously, I will definitely post a picture too. I might even have to do a YouTube video. So the Wolverine one, you see the bear is Tripping Animals' go-to mascot. So that makes sense since Deadpool's an actual person. But for the Wolverine one, it's an actual Wolverine in the Wolverine costume. So I'm really hoping I can get my hands on that. I'm going to put in maximum effort this week, and I'm looking for that.
We will. I have seen it twice. We saw it in London. And then when I got home Saturday, I actually went and saw it again, which I'll talk about our theater experiences here in a moment. But I want to talk and introduce our friend who needs no introduction because he is kind of a regular on this show at this point. He is family, if you will. He's a variant of Hops Geek News. Welcome back, Rich, man. How you doing?
I'm honored. Thank you guys so much. I'm so glad to be here talking about the movie that I have been waiting for all year. I mean, anybody who knows me knows I'm basically
2008. Honestly, we've been waiting for this since 2008. For Hugh Jackman's Wolverine to be in the MCU.
Let's fucking go. This movie has been my entire life for the better part of 2 years. I've been so excited to talk about it with anybody that I can get my hands on. I've done 2 podcasts already this week, and I'm so happy that you guys are my third. Let's fucking go.
Yes. So obviously let's talk about your theater experience first before we get to ours, man. Did you go opening night? What was your theater like? How was it going into this movie?
So I kind of did it up big for this one. I live up in a little place called North Bend, Oregon, which, it's a small little town. We've got a theater maybe 10 minutes from us. It's nice and all. It's great. I usually go there for my theaters. But what me and my wife did for this one, we drove a good 2.5 hours away up to Eugene to an IMAX theater. So we did it in full-blown IMAX at a Regal with a pretty big crowd. I want to say it was a good maybe 60-70% full, the theater. It was unbelievable. I haven't had an experience like that in a few years.
I'm surprised it wasn't sold out.
Or when's the last time that you even had a theater that full? Nonetheless, like I can't even remember.
For an MCU opener, though,
True.
Yeah, no,
It's
for sure.
usually college kids. Do college kids watch the MCU these days? Are they still into it? I don't know. Lauren's 12-year-old's not into it, so I don't know what's going on.
I mean, I was into the MCU when we were in college, but
I was gonna say I was into the MCU when I was in college. I mean, I saw X-Men, the first X-Men, when I was in high school, which is so crazy that he's still doing this. But Kaylee's into it. Like she, my oldest is into it, and she's in college, and all her friends they're all planning on seeing it this weekend because she watched our kids while we saw it.
She did.
She didn't get to see it.
That's right.
Okay, very cool.
Sorry, Kaylee.
But yeah, it was so much fun. I'm so glad we did it in a big theater. I even got my hands on little.
I'm so jealous of this right now. Oh my gosh!
Little baby pool popcorn and drink holder. It's great.
That is hilarious.
I love this thing so much.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
This is worth a Google.
And they even had these little cups with like Deadpool
Wolverine on it.
Oh my gosh,
Wolverine
cup
toppers. So we normally don't go for a lot of the crazy stuff. Like we'll get like a popcorn bucket if it's at our local theater and there's nothing too crazy. But this one we had to go all out for me and my wife because we both love Deadpool and we had so much fun. And then I saw it again at our little local theater on Sunday, which was fun enough. But yeah, I'm so glad we did it big for opening night.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do it that way for sure. And then especially when you get the popcorn buckets, like I'm a little disappointed that, both theaters I went to didn't have any swag period for this movie. It was kind of surprising.
Yeah.
But Lauren and I saw it London Thursday night at the Everyman Theater, it's called. And honestly, like it was a really cool theater because you go like downstairs and it's a bar restaurant thing. You can get coffee, you can get any sort of drinks, food. Lauren found it. It was really close to their Airbnb. And we were like the only people in nerdy outfits. Everybody else is dressed up in like business attire. Like,
well, it's like a date night movie theater. Like it's dinner and a movie. I'm changing my thing till he's 90. Well, I had it still on the other thing for a second. Sorry.
I just think like London period from my experience there was, everybody once they get off work, they're still in like their work attire having drinks. But that's what this was. It was an 8:30 movie or 8 o'clock, whatever it was, 8:30. And
didn't start till 8:30.
No, yeah. I mean, once every other previews and stuff, but the seats were couches. They were legitimately couches, which are really cool.
Love seat things. Yeah. Like our one friend Erica was like, "Oh, I looked into getting a ticket and joining you guys," but like her husband had zero desire to see it, and she's like, "But it looks like I would have to sit like with somebody."
Well, no, they had single. I saw single chairs in there, but she could have tripled up on our couches.
She did. Yeah, right. She could have just sat.
You and Erica could have sat 3 on one couch, and then Josh and Kara on the other because they weren't.
We have a theater like that in my hometown that has like an upper section, like a 21 and over section where you can get drinks and like there's love seats and stuff like that. So I've seen that kind of theater.
It was cool.
Well, when I was younger, I lived in St. Augustine for a little bit, and they had 2 like dollar theater movies, and they were beach chairs. Like you were literally laying on like lounge chairs, and they would bring you food and drinks. It is kind of cool. I don't know if they're still around. That was when I was in middle school, but I mean, as a middle schooler, like we can spend $2 and go see a movie and lay in beach chairs.
Yeah,
I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah,
but I do intend to go see it in 4D this weekend. I think this will be a
go see Twisters in 4D instead.
4D
it's back
movie.
and forth,
and I'm hoping they still have something left because I will be seeing it on my birthday, so my husband can't give me shit to buy something I didn't need.
Very cool.
I went and saw it. I was pet sitting for my friends. And so I stay at their house in Norfolk. And so I went to their theater, which was in a mall. It was a Regal theater. So I was like, oh, sweet. Like they got to have some swag. They had no swag. It was kind of disappointing.
Maybe it just all sold out the first weekend.
Maybe. I went Saturday night.
People like Richard that bought everything.
That's true. I can't say I blame him. I'm going to go rob his house, but
we really did.
I will say though, like the one big difference is that my theater was actually more into the movie, I feel, than London was. Like London, like nobody really clapped, nobody got really into the big reveals, but Norfolk, people were cheering, people were clapping, like everybody was like super jazzed up. Like,
I think that's just London in general. Like I've heard stuff, not even just with movies, like with sports and stuff. They're not quite like
they're a little too posh
with stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I heard they can't drink inside their like stadiums. So
soccer fans just beat the crap out of each other. I don't know.
Well, that's because they get too crazy. And like I do have a friend who's from England, and we watched a soccer game with him at like a hotel pool. And this guy, when his team scored a goal, he ran around the entire pool bar and like high-fived everybody and
That's
screamed.
me
So he
during
is
a Green Bay
very,
Packer game. So
very enthusiastic. But yeah, my I guess cousin-in-law lived in London for a while, and she said, when she first moved there, her and some friends decided to go to a game. They get some beers, they sit down, and everybody's staring at them. And they came over and they're like, "You can't drink the beers in your seats. You have to drink them like
oh wow.
Oh,
back
okay.
there," because I guess they were drinking them in the seats, and I guess getting too rowdy. I'm not sure.
Well,
Okay.
what was your thoughts? What was your thoughts about the theater vibe and experience that we got to? This is the first time we ever saw a movie together. First time we ever saw an MCU movie together. This is the big one for us. I think I saw Lauren shedding tears at multiple points.
I kept it together during the movie. I don't think there was any point I cried during the movie, but right before we went in, like 5 minutes before we went
She
in,
got
I
so
just
giddy.
we had also been drinking all day and
We had,
walking. We
yes.
walked a lot. We
Okay.
went to a couple breweries before. We had lunch at a German place. And all of a sudden I'm like looking at like Everyman. They had like a book of their movies out and it described the movies and Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds are on the cover. And I just
Mhm.
started crying. I was just like overwhelmed with emotion. And my husband
Wow.
and Matt are like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Deeply concerned at this point.
I was just like, I can't believe this moment is finally here and we're finally seeing this and we're doing it in London. And like, like you said, how long have you been looking forward to this movie? Like literally since Nick Fury said, "I'm putting together a team," I was like, I know somebody who would be great.
Somebody who plays
Right.
really well on a team, just not in this universe. Yeah, I mean, it was great, but let's dive into the movie, man. I mean, right off the bat, the big question was, how are they going to honor
Honor
what
Logan.
happened in Logan? And right away, he
They're
was
not.
like, we're not. And then we go into like this amazing number, Instincts, bye, bye, bye. Like
And they
what
played like the whole
Oh my
thing. That
God.
was crazy. I'm
they
like, wow,
they
they're
really
still
did.
playing this.
They
I
played the
saw
entire song.
NSYNC in concert when I was like 8 or 9, right when Bye 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 was first getting big. I think
Wow.
this topped it. I'm not even kidding you. Like
Oh,
this was easily the best opening scene of any MCU movie ever. Probably one of the best openings to any movie I've ever seen. It was I can't even tell you how perfect it was.
that's fair.
Truthfully, I would say this is probably my favorite MCU opening because he's like,
Yes,
Wolverine's not dead. Of course that's not how healing regeneration works. And you're like, oh,
I
okay, so
know.
maybe
And you're like, oh my
interesting. And
God, is
then
this guy laying under there buried by dirt for
could you
years?
imagine he's just laying there and then he goes like, thanks for letting me out. But no, we
yeah.
get skeleton dead or skeleton Wolverine, and he's like, he is dead. And it's just like,
He is
oh
very much
man.
passed
Adamantium
It's
skeleton.
on. Yep.
Yeah.
but
But
it was
it's interesting too. In 1 and 2, they did all the like a movie by douchebags and they made it funny. The beginning of this one, it's like they didn't need to do that because we weren't focused on the titles. We were
no.
focused on the adamantium bones getting thrown
I think it
everywhere.
would have been great if they did, but I do kind of love that they did. I wouldn't say I love that they didn't, but they didn't need to because the
Right.
intro was so good. I mean,
It would have
having the
added like
credits on Wolverine's dead skeleton being
yes, and it said
hurled
Hugh
at TVA
Jackman.
agents and kicked through their heads. I don't think you can really top that.
And then when
And
he
then
threw the spine, the skull actually said Hugh Jackman, which was even
yeah.
better.
And then he even dons the claws at a point, and it's just like,
Yes,
what?
yes, the claws on.
The
Oh my
claws
God, I want
were,
that Funko Pop.
Yeah,
yeah. I
right.
mean,
Deadpool with the Wolverine claws.
and
Yes.
what I love too is like he didn't know how to use them. They got obviously stuck, and he's like,
Oh my
and that
God,
was
when
like
He
they
a
were
can't
on.
great.
retract him. Wolverine
Yeah,
can retract him.
Yep.
that's
Oh,
it was.
yeah.
Well, like let's start with the things that we really loved. Like, what were some of your like? We of course the movie starts there, and then it gets a little. Some people said slower. I didn't feel like this way because as it comes to find out, like what I really appreciated was at this point, Vanessa has moved on because Wade's in a midlife crisis. He's working for, the used car salesman with Peter, and it was great. He's like, I don't have a lot of vaginal sex, and just things like he has his toupee stapled on his head, and he has his
Yeah.
birthday party, and then we get that really cool scene with the TVA coming to show up at his door. He meets, Paradox, who gives him a chance, and for a second there, what I thought was really cool is like he was like, I'm morally bankrupt. I'm not, if not morally compromisable or whatever. So he was actually going to go and do it until he found out that everybody would die. So he was willing to leave everybody he loved behind to go to the 616 because backing up a
Yeah.
little bit, he we get a really welcome surprise. Did you guys expect to see Happy Hogan or
No.
Deadpool this early on in the sacred timeline? Like, what was going through your head at this point?
Fuck
Well,
yeah.
it was
This
so
is
funny to me
happening.
too, because like thinking about that, like having Happy Hogan there, in any capacity, John Favreau was so great too, just because he's really the one that started off this
Yeah.
whole MCU thing. He was the MCU's
Oh, I
first
didn't even think of
director,
that. Yeah.
and and Iron Man, and him and Robert Downey Jr. kicked this whole thing off. So it was really really cool seeing him in the movie within the first 5 minutes.
As the
Mhm.
chauffeur.
Yeah, that was a great deal. And then all the Easter eggs too in the office. Like all the Tony gear, the cap shield from
You
Iron
had
Man
the
2.
you had the
Yeah.
briefcase from Iron Man 2. I think you even had Whiplash's things there at one point too. Like,
Also, anybody notice how the picture of Tony and Peter didn't have Peter in it?
I
Yeah.
did notice
Because-
that. Was Sony not gonna
I
allow
think it
that?
was like a Sony thing because this was 2018 at that point. So like everybody still knows who Peter is. I
Yeah,
just think
he was-
like,
Oh, I
Right.
didn't even think of that. That Happy doesn't know who Peter is. That thought didn't even cross my mind.
well, they do
Right.
though, because this is
Oh,
2018.
no,
Remember?
Happy knows.
Because
Happy knows.
Happy knows who he is because by that point he
Okay,
knows
so
who
we
he
think it
is.
maybe was.
I think it's
Exactly.
just more of like a Sony thing. At that,
What had to happen was Sony probably would have counted that as a Tom Holland appearance.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, it would have counted against his whole like MCU contract thing. That's the only reason I can imagine them blocking him out like that.
same.
Right. Yeah, he's
I-
not Mike Wazowski.
Although movie funny,
fully.
I feel like Deadpool would totally make that joke.
I'm surprised we didn't get something more, but obviously
Yeah.
he goes back to his timeline because he's messing around, and then he was willing to leave, and then that's when we find out that actually, because I was curious, like how are we going to fold Wolverine into this, and that's because they introduced something really interesting, which is the concept of an anchor being, and the anchor being in this case was Logan, who died. It would send reverberations down the timeline, and their timeline's dying faster. And instead of letting it play out over thousands of years, Paradox is like, I got things to do. He creates a machine and he wants to wipe it out right away. I thought for me personally, that's a pretty clever way to kind of fold in because at this point, Deadpool's going to find himself a new Wolverine as an anchor being. Obviously, it doesn't work that way.
Well, and
But
yeah, and I felt like it was a metaphor for the Fox universe, and like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was the anchor for all those movies. Like he was the connection.
Totally.
he
in
was
he had
in
more
Fox X-Men
timeline.
movies. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, either him or Patrick Stewart, but probably more him.
I would say
Yeah,
without
he
a doubt,
was-
Hugh Jackman Wolverine, because he had how many Wolverine solo movies?
2.
Yeah, 3 of them.
Wasn't it just the Wolverine and Wolverine Origins?
It was X-Men Origins Wolverine, the Wolverine, and then Logan.
Oh,
yeah,
and then
that's
Logan,
right. That's right. Yeah. So at that point, he had 3.
We're
and then he
talking
was
about Logan, and I forgot about Logan.
he was in every single one, so it was interesting. And then cue up the montage, baby.
Oh my! I needed more time in every single one. That was like
that could have been a few minutes longer. Yeah,
it was like a tease, especially the the Old Man Logan one. Sorry, my old man. Like obviously, I've raved about that story for so much. And you know what? If he's gonna play this character till he's 90, let's get Old Man Logan then when he's 89. Like let's do that. He looked so good as Old Man Logan. He was spot on. I love that he shot him. That was amazing. I loved it so much, especially because he doesn't retract his claws in that story until he's forced to.
Oh, yeah.
So like the fact that he shot him, because Wolverine's not known for guns. He doesn't use guns. He's not big on guns. It's like the Doctor Who kind of thing. But what would be really cool if we got an Onslaught movie where Jean Grey goes to all the universes and collects all these Wolverines to fight Onslaught. And then you can have all the Hugh Jackmans and Henry Cavill in one movie.
Oh man, I'll get to that. I loved right off the bat, like my little comic accurate short king. Like that was chef's kiss.
Tell him what you text me, the meme you text
So I
me.
sent Lauren a picture of a screenshot of that tiny. So Lauren's son's obviously named Logan, and his big thing the entire trip in Europe is playgrounds. Our kids just wanted to go to playgrounds. That's all they cared about. So I sent Lauren a screenshot of him standing up, and I was like, this is Logan after finding out that there's a playground that he's not allowed to go to or something like that.
No, I think you sent the one about Disney. So like he kept asking, like, can we go to Disney when we get home? Can we go to Disney? I'm like, we're not going to Disney as soon as we get home. Like he would have gone straight to Disney from the airport if I had let him, especially because whenever you fly into Orlando, you're surrounded by people who are going to Disney.
Yeah.
And I was
course,
like,
yeah.
maybe, we'll go next week. And, you sent me, this is Logan asking to go to Disney while you're still in Europe or something. And like, we were,
Oh,
like,
that's what it was.
dead
Yeah.
I like died laughing and then showed my husband and he's like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Because he's
That's
just
great.
so little and he hops off the bar stool. Oh my God.
He just hops off and then
There is no way that Wolverine was 5'3". Like that had to be shorter. Like
He-
they
Oh,
had
I'm
to,
sure
they had to
for
comically
really,
comedic purposes,
really
yeah.
exaggerate that. Just to, like, and it's really funny too, just because now we know how ridiculous that would look in
Oh
live
yeah, like
action.
how insane would it actually look? You're like, all right.
Well,
But
how
my
tall
person,
is Harry Potter?
He's like
God,
5'5", I think.
yeah, he's something
Okay,
like
so even
that.
that's
This
taller
was
than
way shorter than that. This was like
Wolverine.
4'11",
He was
generously.
Yeah.
5'3", because his head was like at the bar level. It felt like.
Yeah, it was a
how
high
does
bar.
he had to jump up and off the stool.
Yeah.
But my
I'll
personal
get
favorite obviously was Cavalrine, man. Like the
Oh
way,
my
and he even cocked his claws out like he does in Mission Impossible, and he cocks his
It took
guns
me
like
until the second viewing to realize that's what he did, and it's so perfect. The
he
Mission
did.
Impossible move.
Oh man, he did. He's got the cigar. He's like, you were just leaving,
I
bub.
like that he had the cigar. Yeah.
Yeah, and oh my god,
So much better than those shitfucks down the street.
I now need Henry Cavill as like Wolverine. If we're moving on from Hugh Jackman, even though Hugh Jackman's playing it till he's 90, as discussed multiple times in this film, I would take Henry Cavill in a heartbeat.
Well,
without a
Henry
doubt.
Cavill, I did whisper to Matt at that moment. I'm like, okay, I'll allow this. I'm okay with this. Like,
This is his
seeing that,
screen
I was
test
like,
right here.
yeah, and he looked phenomenal. And he, we only got him acting for 2 seconds, but he did a phenomenal job. And seeing him as Dark Superman, I feel like he could pull off Wolverine. Like
He's also
with the
got
time
like
when he
the
was like
comedic
rough.
chops too at the same time. Like he's comedic, he can do the gruff, like
Yeah.
really good. We had
Hold on.
obviously oh yeah, we had Patch, which he was smoking the cigar. Lauren and I were talking about. He's got to smoke a cigar in this. So we had Patch. We had a lot of different ones, and then we obviously get our version of
Apocalypse
Wolverine.
One,
Yeah,
we got
I
this
mean,
little guy. I was surprised how many we got.
when he had the flow, the hair, when he had the missing hand and everything, it was incredible. But we finally get our version of Wolverine, who's just some drunk at the bar and passes out drunk, and he takes them back. And that's when Paradox is like, "That's not how any of this works." Obviously, like you idiot. Even if you picked the worst Wolverine, and they keep alluding, what this Wolverine did. You don't know.
Did wasn't that bad. I feel like he's making himself feel worse. Like, okay, he was drunk and whatnot, but it's not like he killed all of them. He just wasn't there when they needed him.
He just feels so guilty and responsible for what happened that he puts the blame on himself, the way Wolverine usually does.
But Paradox and the bartender were both like, "Oh, he fucked up." Like, come on.
Yeah.
Dude, maybe the guy needs some help. He needs to go to an AA meeting. He doesn't need to be shit on by everybody.
I get it though, because the X-Men are his family. They treated him like family. They did so much for him, and he always refused that family. So to him, he turned his back on the family. And when he did that, he wasn't there to protect them. And so they all died because the humans finally got fed up with him killing. He was killing to the point where the humans decided to do something. They show up to the mansion, they kill all the X-Men, and he wasn't there. So he does feel responsible for that, which makes perfect sense. It's like survivor's guilt. He's got survivor's guilt.
Yes, and that makes sense. And that's spot on for Wolverine to have survivor's guilt, to just feel responsible for everything too and have the weight of the world on his shoulders. But at Paradox and the bartender, I felt like were too hard.
Well, Paradox is just an asshole. He's just trying to take out that universe by any means.
Oh yeah,
trying to take over like the TVA.
He didn't. Yeah, he was without a doubt just taking over that and everything. So that was, and then but then would they get obviously sent to our void, where this leads us to our first fight, which a lot of people, something obviously I was kind of thinking about was how are they going to make these fights make sense, right?
So good.
And they actually fought like brothers. That's the vibe I got. I don't know how you guys felt about their fights. They fought like brothers. So what was your thoughts when this first fight kicks off to another fantastic musical sequence?
Well, firstly, they finally actually gave Wolverine a chance to kind of fight like Wolverine, the way he was like crawling on the ground with the claws.
Oh my god, yes.
Like, he looked like an actual animal. This is the first time they've ever done that. I think this movie, more than anything, this is like the most comic accurate version of Wolverine that we've ever seen. And they finally let Hugh Jackman just go nuts with it. Like, I mean, I loved what he did in Logan, obviously, and they got like the R-ratedness and the gore and everything in Logan, but they finally got all the comic booky stuff along with the Logan stuff. in
Right.
this movie, and that's exactly what I was excited for, and that's exactly what I kept telling everybody was going to be great when everybody said this was a bad move to redo the end of Logan.
Yeah. Well, yeah, at the beginning of Logan, when you first see him as soon as he says fuck and then he puts the claws through the guy's head, I was like, yes, this makes sense. This is Wolverine. And I felt like this movie
He's a vicious character, yeah.
So much of that, because you really only got full on Wolverine and Logan a couple times. Obviously, the end was phenomenal but he had to like take this stuff to shoot up to like get him more energy because he was dying.
Even in the hotel, it was like he was trying to, but it wasn't quite that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because at that point he's dying. Yeah. And this one, he's basically full on, just barely short. The only thing they didn't do was like Berserker Rage, which I kind of wish, but like, yeah, he's crawling on the ground, like you said. Lauren, what was going through your mind at that point as you're watching him first time Hugh Jackman go to town?
I absolutely loved it because these are two grown, emotionally constipated men who can't properly talk about their feelings, and this is how they're dealing with it. And what's great is they don't have to hold back at all with either of each other because they have healing.
They can't die.
They just keep regenerating, and it's not like Sabretooth, where like Sabretooth does these horrible things to Logan. Like Deadpool's never killed one of Logan's kids or somebody he loved or something like that. So it's like like you said, it's more so like brothers. And I mean, they
really annoying.
Well, they're two opposite ends of the spectrum. You have one dealing with their grief and stuff in a comedic way, and one dealing with it at the very other end.
In a bottle.
Yeah, they're obviously clashing,
and those are the kind of characters that were great for this kind of movie.
Oh, it was perfect. I definitely am gonna touch on that. And you're right, like the fight sequences were great. They're, obviously Ryan Reynolds was like, all right, nerds, get your sock out because this is gonna be fun.
My god, that was hilarious.
I really enjoyed that bit.
You even saw like when Wolverine was saying the things about, like truly insulting Wade, like going for the fucking jugular where like, of course the Avengers wouldn't take you, not even the X-Men. The X-Men take everybody.
That whole speech was so good.
And look at how Deadpool responded. I'm going to fight you now.
Well, that was the first time Deadpool was like silent. Yeah.
Right.
Well, obviously he says, say one more word. Material. And
that
honestly, like what I really appreciated there was you saw like like people don't really realize that like in comic book movies, they don't expect people to have like in-depth acting. But what we saw there was like Hugh Jackman and Prisoners level of emotion and anger and rage. And his monologue there was so damn good. You felt like the passion and the guilt and the rage. And for the first time ever in this trilogy, Deadpool has nothing to say. Like, and all he says is, I'm going to fight you now. Because he's right. And you didn't even go that hard. And then obviously they fight in the Honda Odyssey, which we'll get to that in a second. But let's get to the cameos. So our first cameo shows up. Did you guys expect Chris Evans, and did you expect it to be the Human Torch? Because when they show him, because you know what, I realized they showed Chris Evans in the stills in the trailers. If you remember, people were thinking the guy in the hooded cloak was Dr. Doom. That was Chris Evans. Now that we look back, and he had like the white wraps, so at first you're like, oh wow, maybe this is Captain America. That was unexpected. But then he goes, he's gonna say the thing. Flame on. And he's like, what?
You called it right before though, because I was like, I heard Chris Evans and I'm like, that's Chris Evans. And you're like, yeah, but it's going to be Torch. And I was like, holy
I had no idea. Like
but they had him still all blue and they had him have the Captain America boot. Like he looked like Captain America until you saw the 4.
Yeah.
Right. And then he hit the flame on and he's like, oh dude, what was going through your minds when you got Human Torch back?
Oh my God. Like that was incredible. And it's so funny too, because I was thinking about like how shocked I was when he first came into the movie. I did not see it coming. But then again, also, this is not the first time he's appeared in a Ryan Reynolds movie, because he made that quick cameo in Free Guy. And clearly they're friends.
Oh yeah, and when he's like, what the shit about the shield?
No, like clearly they're close with each other. And it's funny, I was thinking about beforehand, like if Evans would come back as Woody at all. I had this sneaky feeling that if he came back, it was going to be as something like the Human Torch, because I feel like that character would have fit into kind of a Deadpoolian story.
I mean, it makes sense if you're in the 20th Century Fox, like the Void, right? Yeah. Because that's one of those Void. I never thought Captain America coming back would have made sense.
especially because too they had that whole montage of MCU movies in the TVA, and it was so focused on Cap, and Deadpool was so expecting Cap. Yeah, exactly like he would do in the comics. And it's funny, like as soon as that happened, and as soon as I was thinking maybe Chris Evans was going to be in the movie, I was like, he's going to be Human Torch. Like, there's no way he's going to show up as Cap.
Well, in Loki, they also make a comment because Loki's like, well, what about what the Avengers are doing? And, Captain America went back in time. They're like, yeah, but that was supposed to happen. So it would make sense that Cap wouldn't be in the void.
Right. For that,
exactly. It made perfect sense. And then obviously we get Pyro, Toad, we get Sabretooth jumps, and then they're like, we've been waiting for this forever, big thing, and then it's over in 2 seconds. Wolverine cuts his head off.
No makes noise. How can these dead shut the fuck up?
I did not see that happen. I didn't see them just boom, head cut off. I did not see that coming. I was very surprised by that sequence.
And the Furiosa thing afterwards was just
that was
Furiosa. If it had been the other Sabretooth, I felt like that would have been too quick. But I felt like this Sabretooth, like, that's all
emotional attachment
that one deserved. Yeah, it was.
Right.
Yeah. But I wonder where Liev Schreiber is. If he's like, hey, man, you guys should have called me.
They're saving him for Secret Wars, maybe. I don't know. They're saving him for a rainy day, maybe, hopefully. But then we go to Pym Falls, where then we get more of old Fox remains, and then Cassandra Nova shows up. She was menacing right off the bat. She's putting her hands inside Wade's head, her creepy fingers, and she was just menacing. Like, I thought they did her pretty well in the beginning. Like, overall, my thoughts on the plot was there really is a very thin veiled plot, and the villain's a little weak. However, you don't need them to be strong, because that's not the point of this movie. This is a love letter. Yeah, this is a love letter about moving on and the end of the Fox and bringing that back and getting over this loss and midlife crisis. So I was okay with that. But her coming out was awesome and explaining, that she is Professor Xavier's, and like, we've always wanted a Wolverine, and they allude to all the Deadpools. They get away on a Sentinel leg at that point. They meet Nice Pool and Dog Pool, which is amazing. We get some really good quips about Blake Lively and Gossip Girl, and
that was funny. There's 206 bones in the human body. 207
watch Gossip Girl.
That's a great line on its own. But then to throw in that his wife is in it is perfect.
Right. And she obviously played Lady Pool, which they allude, she's like, Lady Pool's so fine, basically.
He's like, she just had a baby and she looks great, and Deadpool's like, you're supposed to say that.
That was great. And then obviously we get the really good fight sequence in the van, which just absolutely ripped. Like, that was such an intense, for as enclosed quarters that we got. That was a brutal fight.
Yeah, that whole fight scene. I gotta say, the action in this movie, like all the way through, was some of the best action that we've seen in the MCU. Honestly, it's like, it's right up there with some of the best that we've seen.
Baby knife.
Baby knife. and it was so funny too. The fact that it was set to Grease, like the fact that it was set to, you're the one that I want, just top the whole thing off.
The soundtrack in this movie is so good.
It's hilarious.
Some of the best needle drops of any MCU movie ever.
But that's not like what I get with Deadpool, you get, Dolly Parton 9 to 5 and you get all these things. But like, that was like, if I had to predict the soundtrack, I wouldn't have picked a single one.
I thought the soundtrack to this is better than Guardians of the Galaxy. I will say it. Wow. I'm going to stand on that, stand on business, if you will, for that. I liked this soundtrack way better.
I think they're in the discussion with each other for sure.
I mean, it's kind of like a 1A, 1B, but
I really liked Captain Marvel's soundtrack. Maybe because
Captain Marvel's
I had like every CD that they played. I mean, they played garbage.
That's right.
Like, I remember getting that CD and my dad making the joke, that CD is garbage.
But after this van fight where we see both of them torn up and Logan's wrapped up in seatbelt, or not Logan, Wade's wrapped up in seatbelt.
Oh my God, like a fucking spider. What the hell did that even happen?
We then see a mysterious figure drive the van away, and they wake up inside. It looks like there was a statue of Wanda. If I'm not, that was Wanda, right? Okay.
We're looking at that. That's the monument of Wanda from Wanda Glory in Doctor Strange 2.
And then,
I was expecting to see Wanda, obviously.
Right. But then we get even better reveals. So Elektra, played by Jennifer Garner, walks in. And then,
which we knew about because they had spoiled that one.
They had spoiled that. But Wesley freaking Snipes walks in as Blade.
Who saved Marvel
He
back in the 90s.
saved Marvel, and
None of this would be happening without him.
Him and Ryan, he did not like Ryan Reynolds. Well, so it was more of he didn't like. So basically, what happened was in Blade 3, Trinity, if you will, Jessica Biel and Ryan Reynolds were put in the movie. They were basically trying to backdoor pilot another movie with those two. And Blade, Wesley didn't like the direction that the movie was going, so he refused to play ball. To the point that there is a scene where he opens his eyes, but it's CGI opening eyes. Yeah. And so there's that quip of, I never liked you. Or I don't like you. He's like, you never did. But it was more about like, he didn't like the scenario 20 years ago. So they finally made up, like, Ryan called Wesley and was like, hey, if you want it, you're in. And he was like, no way. Like, they have Marshala Ali. Like, this isn't real. And Ryan Reynolds was like, no, dude, this is serious. So he pretty easily got him to play ball. And then in walks Channing Tatum as Gambit. I did not see that. I
Dude,
didn't
he looked
see
like
Gambit.
He was cosplaying. He was like so spot on.
Oh my God. That blew my freaking mind.
Oh my God.
It was hilarious. Honestly. I just thought it was so, and of course my husband didn't understand that. So I had to tell him why he did not like Gambit at all. He's like, his acting is terrible in this.
I didn't know how I felt on the first viewing, but after the second viewing, because Gambit is to Carrie what Wolverine is to Lauren. And so she was pumped. Me, I was like, I don't know how I feel. Like, I think obviously they're kind of taking the piss on his accent and stuff. Like, who's your dialect coach? The Minions? Like,
it was so great.
Upon second viewing, watching him fight, I was like, whoa, dude. Like, his action sequences were actually low-key some of my favorite in the movie. Like, what's going through your head, Rich, as you see Channing, like some, all the people we saved or wanted to save, like, just this whole bit of the movie.
It's funny, like catching up on X-Men the animated series and then watching obviously through 97.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Gambit has become definitely one of my favorite X-Men over the last couple of years. And seeing Channing Tatum finally get a chance to do this, like he really like solidified.
It was in developmental hell for 10 years before being dropped.
Exactly. It never got made, and then the Disney Fox thing went through, and he never even got a chance at it. And it's funny too with the accent thing. That was maybe one of like my only minor complaints about it the first time around, just because you couldn't understand what he was saying most of the time.
I think that was the point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like thinking about it the second time, like that was the point of it. Like they tried to make it like hammy and ridiculous and everything. And it worked out so perfectly for this movie. But I was so happy with how Gambit, came into this movie. They finally did him right. The action sequences were so good in that final battle, especially. Dude. No, I was so beyond thrilled to see Channing Tatum in this movie, and he did such a good job. And I'm just thank God he finally got it.
Yeah. And I hope we do see more of him. I really like the action scenes, but I felt like he was trying too hard to be the cartoon almost. And maybe he just needs some time to find his own version of Gambit. But I really like the guy that played Gambit in Origins. I thought he did a great modern day Gambit because back then,
he was solid. Yeah.
Comic book
Taylor
stuff.
Kitsch, yeah.
Yeah. My one issue though about the costume was Channing Tatum couldn't move his neck. It was like Batman in the 90s. Like he had no neck movement at all.
Like Batman Begins.
None at all. Like he could not move.
It was like Michael Keaton Batman. It was like
I think that was again the point to show like, okay, sometimes comic accurate things can be a little silly.
A little much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
But like I also like they spoiled Laura coming back because Feige said that Daphne really wanted to go to the premiere, so that's why they spoiled her coming back. Which I was okay with because like she really wanted to go to the premiere, man.
She could have just been there to support Hugh Jackman. They didn't have to.
That was like my thought too. But
literal only complaint with this movie was they shared too much in the trailers because I felt like there was too much that I was like, I've seen this scene.
Yeah.
Although I will say there was a crazy amount that they didn't spoil, even considering how much.
Yeah. Well, and that's what was this Sean was saying about spoiling X-23. What's the guy's last name? Sean. The director, the writer.
Oh yeah,
Sean Levy. Yeah.
Sean Levy. He was like, it's okay that we're spoiling Laura. That just goes to show you how much more we have.
We're not spoiling.
I mean, Gambit was kept under wraps pretty freaking good.
I had no idea about Gambit or Blade.
Snipes,
but so the Jennifer Garner thing, though, when they said something about we've lost a lot of people, and they're like, sorry about Daredevil, she's like, it's okay.
Well, they made two really good quips.
That was
Like
amazing.
the first one on Hugh Jackman, he's like he let himself go after the divorce. Like
Mhm.
I was surprised too.
Through, yeah.
Yeah,
I
just
was
because
like,
it seems like they're
oh.
very amicable.
Right. And
Yeah.
then of course Jennifer Garner, like Jennifer Garner still cares for Ben and like she's like they're
Well, they're
still
still
kind of
raising
they
kids together.
co-parent very well.
Yeah.
But the whole like, it's okay. I was like, dang,
That
they
was
slid
funny.
some stuff in there that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And then of course we move on to the big battle at Pim Falls again, where we get to see like Laura puts her glasses on, Snipes pulls
That
out
was adorable.
Punishers, and there's only ever gonna be one blade, and then you get the little like look at the camera, like I'm curious to see like because that could play either way, like oh he doesn't know, or ooh that's us telling you that there's never gonna be a blade,
Right,
even though it's
it's
still
never
on the
happening.
slate. It's just like Channing Tatum's in Secret Wars. We're finally gonna get Marshala Ali, who never got to actually play Blade, and we're gonna get his 3 minutes of fame. But like the battle was great. I mean, everybody. My only complaint is things moved a little too fast, so you didn't really get to see like Laura shine out. You really got to see Gambit shine pretty hard, which I thought was awesome.
But we got to get more Laura in the future. I'm assuming.
I think we're getting more of her, and then of course Laura cuts off Juggernaut's head because the whole thing is like, well, we can get. Please tell me it's Magneto. Magneto's dead. She destroyed his helmet right after she killed him. Motherfucker. So the only thing to use against her is Juggernaut's helmet, which is like I want to say the guy who played Juggernaut was like an extra in one of the other Deadpools, or he was something connected in Deadpool or something.
I saw who he was. He was remember Free Guy, the big
that's what it was. Yes, he was in Free Guy. Yes.
He did the body double for him.
Yes, that's what it was.
It wasn't because it wasn't Vinnie Jones who did Juggernaut in X3, and it wasn't Ryan Reynolds, obviously.
Yeah, that's what it was. He was in Free Guy, and so like his head gets cut off after she cuts his Achilles, which is brutal. And then that's when Pyro shows up because he was working with Paradox, shoots Cassandra, and they end up saving Cassandra. After Hugh punches, he's like, "Not everybody gets a monologue."
I love that. Yeah.
That was great too,
especially because Wolverine our Wolverine never liked Pyro. He was an annoying little kid. And so exactly. It's funny to, even though
he tolerated him in X2, but that was
right. Oh, can we talk about? So, do you remember in X2 when they're fleeing the mansion and Pyro puts the music on? Yeah, and it's bye.
It is. Yes, I think that was a callback.
I didn't even put that together first until I just watched it, and then it came up on a reel, and I'm like, oh my god, I literally just watched X2 like 2 weeks before this.
That was what 03, I think. So that was only a few years after it first came out.
Yeah. But we go back to Deadpool's Earth at this point, and everything's kind of transpired. And now enter Nice Pool and the Deadpool Corps and Dog Pool. Nice Pool. The Deadpool Corps comes out. They're working for Cassandra Nova, and obviously our Deadpool wants Dogpool to be his own. And this is really funny where he basically uses Nice Pool as a human shield. He's like, let's say it with me. You're going to live. I'm going to live. And then he gets his head blown off.
Like,
that was murder.
He died for murder, you dumb fuck.
It was so good. But then they walk out and they get, their big walkout, what we see in the trailers. But then he puts on the Wolverine mask. Like how
one
good
of the greatest comic book movie moments in history.
It's up there with Avengers Assemble.
Yes,
it's pretty damn close.
I will
and the
say,
three Spider-Men.
It was insane. Like, oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
And then we go into that really cool montage of them killing all the Deadpools, which
and when they jump out of the bus at the end and like I need that on a poster. I need
a poster so badly.
Yeah. And then come to find out, like, everybody has a Peter, and Peter saves the day, so to speak, so they can go. And I will say this is kind of the weak point in the movie for me, where Cassandra is just standing there stealing the antimatter from the machine, and the only way to stop it is they have to like pull it out. And so Deadpool pulls a fakie, goes in there to pull it out, and that's when
I thought he was going to make a comment about Clint and Scarlett Johansson at that point. Like,
I thought he was too.
Right.
Because it was one of them was going to die. Essentially, whoever does it is going to die. To me, that's kind of a shitty way for like Cassandra Nova, who was a villain, but then she kind of gets sidelined for this moment. And then come to like Hugh breaks through, and then you get that really fun scene where they hold hands, his top burst off. And you get that. Everybody's looking at his abs. And I was like, even me, I was like, God, for 55 years old, dude, Jesus.
That dude looks better at 55 than I'll probably ever look in my life.
I could never look
And
like
I love
that.
he still had the mask on with
He
no
did.
shirt.
I love
The mask on.
pants stayed on.
Something about that,
Mhm.
it awoke something in me, and I don't know what it was. And I'm gonna have to go
Yeah.
on a soul searching journey because it was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And you
Yeah,
get that.
I mean, he woke something to me
Oh
24
man.
years ago.
It's funny too, like thinking back on it, like this is easily the best he's ever looked as Wolverine, which is insane. But like I remember I heard a story about well, maybe
I would say
the
the
Wolverine.
Wolverine or Origins.
But this
Well,
was
he was
close.
bigger. Like this is his leanest, but more
Right.
muscular. He was more beefy. He was like Henry Cavill beefy in
But
the
then,
old
like
Wolverines.
compared to the first one, I heard a story that he only had like 3 weeks to get ready for the
First
role
one,
in the
he's
first
not
one.
overly.
Yeah, well, he didn't have a lot of time. Yeah, because he got last
Exactly,
second
he had
replaced.
no
Yeah.
time to prepare. I mean, he was perfectly fine. He looked
Right.
Oh
perfectly
He
good.
was,
yeah.
you know,
But
he's
he
a
didn't have the
tall dude.
crazy muscles or like the abs or anything this time.
Not like when he's wearing the the wife beater where he's really jacked, but this is obviously different. And then you get that really cool thing. Cassandra Nova dies, and then you see them walking out. He's still got the mask on, and I'm just like, damn, that's a
Even Deadpool
hero.
like leans over.
I know he's just like,
Yeah.
and the guy from the TVA, his whole thing, he's like,
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh,
that
yeah,
was
I was looking at him the whole time. What did he say when he put the mask on at first, and then Deadpool said something? He's like, "Sorry, I'm a catty bitch when I'm jealous."
yeah, he's like, I'm a catty. Were you saving this? Like, were you just holding out for the best? Or he's like, sorry, I'm a catty bitch when I'm jealous. But I was
Right.
like,
Oh, that was he's like, "Oh, it's
"Hey."
for killing
And
people."
not for
Killing
nothing.
mostly.
Something I really appreciate about Deadpool in general is obviously you have Ryan Reynolds, who's a very big actor, very handsome actor. And typically when you have a guy who, in their superhero movies, they don't like to hide their faces. Or like the studios don't want to hide their faces because they think hiding their face detracts from the money, blah, blah, blah. Deadpool is in his mask 99% of this movie, just like Batman, Robert
Probably
Pattinson was.
saves time and having to do his makeup.
Well, fair,
Oh
but
yeah, for sure.
I think there's this shift now, though, with comic book movies where they're not afraid to hide their big name actors behind a mask.
Right.
Even Wolverine was in it for a good amount of time, surprisingly, but Deadpool's in it most of the time. Robert Pattinson is in his Batsuit most of that movie. Like, I think we're seeing a shift now, which is great.
Like it makes me curious to see what they're going to do with the major Comic-Con news, like with Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. Is he going to be
Like,
behind Doom the entire time? I kind of hope they do because I
Well, then
really
he can
want to.
just voice it too, like the Mandalorian.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Because Pedro Pascal pretty much just voices the role now.
I mean,
I
they
think
keep
it's
him
like,
behind
Right.
his
So
Mando.
it might
Yeah.
be cheaper and more efficient. But I mean, Ryan Reynolds is very adamant that like I'm the one in that suit. Other than the bye dance.
He didn't do the dance. Yeah, he was not. There was the guy.
Shout out Nick Pauly, the guy who did the dancing. He was so good.
He
and he
posted
even
on
had
TikTok
like
and stuff.
the
Yeah,
mannerisms of Ryan. Like it looked like Ryan Reynolds doing it.
Oh yeah, no, he made it look like Ryan Reynolds was doing it. That was great.
Hands down.
He did a fantastic job.
It was incredible. This whole movie to me, it's in top 5 of my MCU movies. I haven't sat down to really think about because I've seen it twice, so I can confidently say this is a top 5 MCU film for me. I haven't sat down to really like rank my MCU movies yet. I know it's in the top 5. I don't know what's moved in.
We did it a couple years ago, right around when Shang-Chi came out. We did it.
We're due for like another re-ranking, I think, so I can really. But to me, it's in my top 5. I don't know, like, how are you guys feeling after finally seeing this movie?
Oh yeah, top 5 for sure. Definitely best Wolverine movie and best Deadpool movie. It could be right. It's up there with Endgame and No Way Home.
You know what's funny? For me, I think right now, after seeing it twice, I thought this after opening night, and I think it's confirmed now. This is my favorite MCU movie. Like, I think because I have such an affinity for Deadpool personally, like Deadpool's my favorite comic book character, and because it was so Deadpool, and like they did all the things that I wanted them to do. There's barely anything that I can really complain about with this movie. I think it topped No Way Home for me. Like No Way Home was my top one for pretty much since that came out, and I think this topped it.
Well, I think when it comes to the cameos, like they were gratuitous, but they weren't gratuitous to the point where, they didn't make sense. Like they all made sense. And to me, I think the cameos in this movie actually hit harder for me personally than the Spider-Man ones did. Like I've gotten full movies with Octavius, and I loved seeing Norman Osborn back, and I've got movies with him before. Electro, I don't care about. Doc Connors, I didn't really care about. This movie, though, like we finally got to see our Gambit that we never did. Wesley Snipes as Blade is back. Elektra, sure, whatever. Laura's back. Hugh is back. He's in the comic accurate suit. And my complaints were that, yeah, it's a thinly veiled plot with a kind of a thinly veiled villain. However, again, like I said, this doesn't detract from the actual movie itself. Like at no point am I like, oh, this pulls, because that's not the point of the movie. It's the movie is bigger, and I think that's really leans into the acting ability of Ryan and Hugh, the way that they play off each other so well. Like one is so jokey and ridiculous, the other is just absolutely serious, but like the journey that they both face is a very similar one. They're finding themselves again, which they do because now they are with Laura and Hugh are with Deadpool in his house at the end. And I'm very curious to see, like, they're obviously going to be in Secret Wars. We're going to have a payoff at some point with that Thor scene. We know why Thor is crying, holding Deadpool at some point. I'm just curious, like, does that mean like Hugh is going to be back in Secret Wars? Is Laura going to be in the end? Like, what does that mean?
So being so vague about it. And one of the things that did surprise me at the end when he's like, am I going to see you again? And Wolverine says, probably not. But then he goes and has like dinner with him. And he's like, give me the dog while you talk to the girl. So I was surprised. I wasn't surprised at that line. I was surprised that he
stuck around.
Back.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've all been talking about Laura for years. I feel like at this point, like, and this isn't like
she's definitely sticking around.
5-minute Mr. Fantastic with Jim.
Yeah.
She's care. A great younger one. She's part of that age group with Kate Bishop and everybody. Like,
she could be the Young Avengers, man. That's a perfect addition to the Young Avengers right there with Kate and Yelena and her. Like, I'm just saying, Marvel. It's there, man.
Yeah. A couple things. Hugh Jackman, I always thought, like, when they brought him back for this, I felt like it was going to be a 2-movie thing. This and Secret Wars. I felt like maybe they'll send him off with that, and that'll be his swan song, and that'll be awesome. And it's funny when you talk about the cameos too. Like, the way I'm actually thinking about it, I can't remember who said it, but I'm really kind of leaning into this theory. This movie really didn't actually feature a ton of like cameos. It had a ton of.
No, it actually, you're right, it didn't.
Like, the only real cameos to me, I think, were Henry Cavill's Wolverine, Tyler Mane is Sabretooth, and maybe one or two others, but the rest of them actually had Toad, maybe.
Well, like Azazel, but like he didn't even have a speaking line.
He didn't have a speaking line. He didn't even have like a real fighting sequence. You didn't see him doing
Everybody we're talking about had like substantial roles in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, Evans, Garner, Snipes, Tatum, like all of them were in the movie for a solid 10-15 minutes each. Maybe not that long, but
they played a pretty pivotal role.
They were relevant,
They were very relevant
to the
plot. It wasn't just fan service. It wasn't, wanted it and just killed them in 5 minutes.
They weren't dead.
And also, last side note on Evans, that post-credit scene, oh my God.
His Boston accent. And you can quote me, was that Kevin too from She-Hulk, the camera?
You know what? It might have been.
I think it was. Lauren, when you're watching, look at the camera. Let me know if that was from She-Hulk.
They let Evans go full Boston, and they let him go do all
you
the
can quote me
on
that.
And swearing. And you can quote me on that. Okay.
It was.
They let Chris Evans go full Chris Evans, and it was so perfect.
Well, and Ryan Reynolds kept his promise. This is not going to. This isn't going to be a commercial for another movie. He said every MCU movie ends with a commercial for another movie, and the end credit scene was not a commercial.
The end credit scene. It was Good Riddance, Time of Your Life by Green Day. It
was
all the reel of all the Vox universe.
How good that was.
You kids are a bit young to remember this, but in the year that song came out, that was the graduation song for everybody who graduated the year 2000. I graduated 2000.
Are you kidding me? They played that in our senior year review. That was our song.
Yes, but the song didn't come out that year.
That's because we listened to Graduation by Vitamin C.
That came out the same fucking year as 2000.
I literally graduated. Whatever. All right.
When I graduated from high school, or
when
the year before,
I was fighting World War II and going to school at the same time, women were not allowed to vote.
America and Wolverine.
All right. So,
X-Men came out in the year 2000, and so did that song. And so, like, I saw this movie in high school in the year 2000, and that song was like every single senior's like thing that year, and it was just so perfect.
All I'll say is, like, I know you lived through that, like, Ned. Matt and I are about, I think, a month or two apart in age. We're both right in the same age range.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song played a lot through our like middle
I
school
told
and
you.
high
At
school
your
years.
5th grade graduation, did it
I
now?
come on, man.
Honestly, they probably did. 'Cause
Probably.
I think I
Probably
think I graduated 5th
8th grade
grade in like
graduation was 03, so
If you guys
probably.
were born in 90, then yeah, you were 10 when these things
All right,
came
all
out.
right. As we wrap this beautiful movie up, I need to know, in the honor of Wolverine, we're gonna rate this out of 10 cigars. So Lauren,
10.
I'm gonna let you go first.
10
10
out of 10.
cigars? 10 out of
My
10
only
cigars.
complaint was that they shared too much in the trailer. That's literally my only complaint.
Fair and
I would
valid.
have, and that part of that's my fault. I usually don't watch more than the first trailer.
That's why I was glad we're on the
But I
boat, because
had
I
to watch as much as I could.
Yeah.
But I also do want to know, are there 2 Logans in that universe now? Because
that's another good
2029
point.
hasn't
There
happened
is.
yet.
I think there
After I
is.
see it again, we might have to talk more.
Yeah.
We'll talk more.
10 out of 10 cigars.
Rich,
I have my cigar
out
glass.
of cigars, how many?
easy 10 out of 10. I've never laughed harder at a movie, I think, in theaters in my life. And I love having fun at the movies. Everything I could have wanted.
I'm gonna go 10. I am. I'm gonna stick. I'm giving this. It stuck
30
the
out of
landing.
30.
In honor of the Olympics, it stuck the landing. There is,
Yes, it
it really
Movie
did.
was
It
the
was.
best at what it does, and what it does best
Call me a shill.
is
Call
to
me what you
entertain us.
will. I don't care what your opinion is. The fact that I got to see this, Lauren and I together, and then I got to see it a second time, and just the air around it, the theater experience, the movie itself, it was immaculate. And man, it really was a 10 out of 10. So, Rich, as we wrap up, man, why don't you go ahead and remind the good people who may be tuned in for the very first time where they can find you and all the amazing things that you're out there doing.
Thank you. And thank you guys so much again for having me. It is a blast every time we do this, and can't wait to do it again. Yeah, you can find me online at Richard Nebens, Nebens, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and everything. I'm the senior writer and assistant editor at thedirect.com. Right now, I'm writing about a ton of Deadpool stuff. We got a ton of Deadpool articles up, so that's a ton of fun. And then I also do a little bit with the Agents of Fandom too, my good friends over there. Shout out TJ for the truthful Timmy, the blowjob queen of Saskatoon.
Yes, and he even got credited too.
I think loved that joke. But yeah, you can find me online, just writing away, podcasting with all my friends and talking the hell up out of this movie. I can't wait for the rest of the year.
I know, man. And August is stacked month for movies as well. Alien, Trap, Josh Hartnett's back, baby.
I want to see that.
Can't wait to see that movie, Alien Romulus, and then we move into the fall time where we got a lot of good movies. So,
Beetlejuice.
make sure Beetlejuice is coming in September. Follow Rich, man. Richard is out there doing some really good things, doing really great interviews, writing some really great articles. Make sure you check out his stuff on the direct. You trust me, you are not going to want to miss it. And then for Lauren and I, NerdInitiative.com. Every Wednesday is our new comic book day reviews. I'm heading up the movies department now, I guess. So like there's lots of movie reviews coming out there. Hoping to see more. Cantina hours are getting back and running. We're back in the swing of things. We took our vacation time. We're back and ready to go. Hops Geek News, every podcasting platform, every social media platform. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And until next week, folks, we will see you soon, man. Let's fucking go.